Live and in colour with the Periscope boys. Crouchy, Martin, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Welcome, lads. Welcome to Strive.
It's a pleasure.
What does Strive mean to you guys? Let's get deep. Because Nathan,
right in the button.
That's exactly what Nathan wanted out of this podcast.
Yeah, very good question, Miles. Thank you.
No, I'm serious.
Someone's going to say it.
What does striving mean to you guys? Let's set this up. Let's set this up with a bit of substance. What do you reckon?
Oh, look, I think for me, it's all about like the obvious stuff, isn't it? You know, I think it's whatever you're shooting for as an individual or as a collective. And I know we're going to be talking about partnerships a bit more today, but I guess for me personally, it's about not just about, I guess, success in business financially. It's about shooting for the stuff that gets you out of bed each day, the fun stuff, you know, the relationships, the partnerships along the way, and the harmonious connection of family and friends and all that stuff around it too. That's me, you know.
What gets you guys out of bed every day?
Honestly, for me, I think it's about the challenge, the busyness of like kind of what we do. I don't think we make our lives too easy because we like new stuff, you know, and we enjoy doing new stuff. And like, you know, I think Nate's, you know, we share a lot of the same characteristics. We love new ideas, new business vehicles, new brands, new stuff, you know, and you know, I think we're lucky enough to have built a reasonably stable and successful business in Periscope, and that's given us a platform, a little bit like you guys, to be able to do other stuff. And, you know, so whether it's coffee shops or, you know, investments in seltzer companies or debt companies, you know, we just love the thrill of that stuff, and that's what gets me out of bed.
What tell us about Periscope. What is it? Tell the people what it is who don't know about it. Where did it start? What is it?
I mean, if you dumb it down, it's something we don't use in our vocabulary anymore, but it's essentially a digital service provider. So we specialise in e-commerce, not by design, it's because we've had a lot of success there and our backgrounds have been that way. So we look after web development, design and branding, a lot of like digital marketing, a lot of performance marketing, SEO, and it's a place where a lot of businesses come to us and say, I want to grow. How can we do it responsibly? We've got a bit of experience in that, both client side and in services side. So they'll come to us and want help in growing their business online, and we tend to help them that way. So that's one of the things that is in that bow of getting us up in the morning. Do you know what I mean? Trying to get out of bed and make things happen, not just for ourselves, but for our clients and other people, our partners as well.
Tell us about your backgrounds and what got you into this field, and which eventually led to Periscope.
Well, you're older, so maybe you start.
Thanks for that. Oh, look, I started my career in the UK. I went to uni in Leeds, great city. If you've not visited Leeds,
it is a great city.
It out. Yeah, and I literally just came out of uni, and I was tossing up whether I was to go traveling or not. But I thought, you know what, I'm just going to get stuck straight into it. And I knew I wanted to do something in digital. I knew I loved marketing. I felt like I wanted to do something a bit more creative and work with cool brands. You know, back then I was DJing and I was into fashion, a bunch of other stuff. So I was like, I'm going to go and work in a cool agency. And anyway, I didn't end up working in a cool agency. I actually ended up in a prison, believe it or not. And it wasn't because I got sent to prison.
Prison as a metaphor for
it. Believe it or not, I mean, we won't spend too long on this. I actually worked for an agency that had an office inside a prison.
Wow.
Yeah. Which was kind of crazy. It was like an award-winning agency that work with a bunch of incredible clients, T-Mobile, Panasonic, Selfridges, but they had an initiative that they had an office inside a prison, and so I kind of did that. I was privileged enough to work with some incredible clients for, you know, the first 2 years of my career, and then I stayed with that company for 4 years. Kept working, you know, albeit not inside the prison, doing a bunch of other stuff. Then I moved to a larger, bigger agency, MediaCom, kind of went on that journey, did 4 years there, became disillusioned with the whole big agency thing. I thought, I'm going to set my own agency up. So I set my own agency up. I did that for kind of 3 years. And then I thought, I got to get out of the UK. It's too cold and wet, and I want to go live in Australia and go and do loads of cool stuff over there. And so I sold my shares in that business, came over to Australia, and I pitched up in Brisbane. That's where I met That's where I met Nath. We both held senior positions in an agency there. I won't spoil Nathan's story. I did a couple of years there, and then I actually went client side after that. I went and worked. I did 4.5 years at surfstitch.com as the marketing director there. That was kind of pre-IPO. I was part of the leadership team that took the business through the IPO there. That was super fun. And, like most public companies, it became new board and the drag of reporting to the public market. It was a pain in the butt, so decided to pull the pin on that and use that collective skills and experience to set Periscope up. And that was 6 years ago now. And here we are, 6 years later.
So cool. What about you, Nate?
Yeah, I had a very sort of a similar career trajectory. We did about 10 or 12
You
years.
did the prison thing?
Well, not by choice, but did about 10 or 12 years in like big agency land in Sydney. Then moved up and got involved. Had some really inspirational people to work with there, and then moved up and got into the mobile ad tech space as a startup, which was really, really exciting, and that company blew up. But I just saw other things, so ended up going client side and reunited with my friend here at surfstitch.com and ended up running performance marketing for a whole bunch of businesses around the globe they had. And then, when we saw the opportunity to perhaps do our own thing, get back up into that startup mentality, we sort of jumped at it. So, 6 years and then here we are.
And be remiss not to include within the story Mr. Dane Patterson that brought the introduction to the Periscope boys through. So I know I'm going to get him to listen to it so we can hang a bit of shit on him. But the fighting pride of Mermaid Beach called me up one day and said, "Hey, yeah, I saw you at Out of Bound, which is the boys' cafe for those playing along." And I was like, "Oh, what are you doing there?" He's like, "Oh, I've got a debt placer app. It's like I can just get money out of people that aren't paying for shit." I'm like, that actually sounds like a really, really good app. He's like, "Oh, you should come meet the boys." And I was like, "Oh, do they?" I didn't know that they also owned Periscope plus the cafe. And he's like, "Funnily enough, they actually sound a lot like you, cafe, marketing, other businesses on the go." I was like, fuck, these people sound like psychopaths. No one wants to do that much shit. I have to meet them. And then obviously got the intro from them, and then went from there. It's which has been cool.
Yeah.
So Sally, share the news, the exclusive news about what's going on, and sort of like where we're taking this new relationship.
Yeah, so I mentioned to Dane, he was obviously chatting to me a lot about Sprout because he just had a kid. He's like, "Oh, Sprout sounds like it's going really well." I said, "It is, but me and Miles are too busy with these brands growing, be it Combat and Sprout." And I also said it would be actually nice to get some experience from people that have taken brands globally. And then he mentioned again, the boys have done that. And I was like, "Who do they look after?" And then he showed me, and I was like, fuck, they're obviously really good at this. Could I get an introduction? And he just started from there. And then the Periscope, finding out a bit more about what the boys did there on the digital side. I presented that where hype is at the moment, we're looking to evolve, as we've actually gone through a podcast previously about evolution and what the next stage would be. The next stage for us was either going to be getting more people on or transitioning into a bigger, better beast. And fortunately enough, the boys at Periscope could see an opportunity there as well with our health and wellness side of the business to combine with their expertise in digital scaling brands globally. And then, a merger starting next year with Periscope or Hyperscope or whoever. We've had a lot of nicknames thrown around there, but man, super excited. Not only for the team of Hype to join Periscope, but for our brands to live under the Hyperscope type of business to allow exponential scale, because it's something that you only know what you know. We've done well to get the business to this point. I feel Martin and Nath are the perfect guys to help lead that growth into the next phase. They've done it. So, super stoked, particularly after working with clients like Culture Kings, LSKD and the likes of that type of stuff. Can only see great positivity and momentum moving forward into 2023.
100%. Yeah, thanks so much, guys, for, I guess, believing in us and believing in Hype and seeing an opportunity there and being willing and open to work with us and collaborate. I think we're going to have a really, really fun future together.
Well,
So
I think it's been easy to see the opportunity there, right? I think specialism of Hype and specialism of Periscope, I think those two things work really well together. And I think the whole is greater than some of its parts. I think there's a lot of opportunity for clients, new and existing, to cross-pollinate, get new ideas out of different skill sets while retaining the theory of why they came to us in the first place. So we think it's perfect and quite exciting.
I see these guys as probably I still see these guys as having that scrappy mentality that we do, which I think is necessary to keep things keep yourselves motivated and keep things progressing and moving forward. But I feel like they're a more mature version of us.
I will, like, we've
been called mature. Thank you, I'll say that.
Well, we've gone through the process or the journey, and we won't name names, of like where we've had people come and approach us about buying the agency, and we just be like, are you guys kind of like us in any type of similar way? And like, as Miles said, we're big on working hard, having good times, and really pushing the limits and getting the best for our clients, not this like pseudo digital / ROAS means, like just abbreviated words that don't really mean something. We want tangible results. And you also have to vibe with the people that you're looking to go with. And met the team. The boys also have a design agency as well with Jay, and he's a legend, and all the team seem really cool. And then I saw Nathan one day not wearing shoes in the agency, and I'm like, I don't wear shoes in my agency. This is important things. And then I saw that the boys were only eating vegan food as well, and I was like, everything seems to just be lining up perfectly here. So from there, it just seemed like a natural pathway through.
Something I wanted to point out, and I think it's easy for us to refer to our businesses as agencies, but agency is a word that you guys have chosen to remove from the vocabulary of how to describe your guys' business. And funnily enough, we did for a long time too. So talk to us about that, because I know that there's a lot of our clients are business owners who run very large businesses and also startups, and there are also people considering starting businesses, and sort of like identifying partners along the way is an important thing, including sort of like agency partners. So why did you guys decide to remove the term agency when you're describing your agency, and what does this all mean to you? Tell us about the industry.
I think a piece for us is, this is going to sound like we are mature now. Right? Here's the grey hair and all of that. But look, I mean, we've been doing digital for a while, and I think just because we've been doing it for a while, that doesn't, it doesn't really mean anything, does it? Because you can be terrible at that. But we think we've built experience, and I think what we've tried to create at PeriscoPe is trust with clients, and we're talking about partnership today. I think much of the trust we've built and the long-term enterprise level agreements that we've built with clients is pretty much based on trust, and that trust is based on transparency and honesty. And a bunch of other stuff, right? You got to be good at what you do, and you got to be able to use the tech and read the client and understand what's happening. But I think that communication and that trust and that honesty is critical in building long-term relationships, and that whole mentality around win-win. We've just come off the back of Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and lots of the work we do with clients is really quite pressured, and it's fundamental to the success of their business. And for us our role really is to work with them on getting the best success and getting the most profitable success. Nath mentioned at the beginning, about sustainability is a word we use a lot. And that doesn't mean, for us, the context of that right now isn't around, whether we're being kind to the planet, or it's all really important stuff to us too, but it's around profitability. How can we help businesses scale, but scale sustainably? And so lots of the conversation we have around that are asking questions around margin and indent and stock turn and all of that stuff to really help dial ourselves into those businesses to help them succeed in the right way.
They're sort of questions that typical marketing agencies don't necessarily ask or care as much about. Do they?
I would agree with that. I mean, most don't. But I guess I'm waffling on a bit, but coming back to what you mentioned, Miles, is what we've seen in the landscape is this proliferation of just agencies appearing kind of everywhere with, little experience. and promising all this stuff, running a bunch of Instagram ads about 32x return, page one listings and all this stuff. And it's really not that helpful. If you're out there trying to do a good job and you've been doing it for a while and you've built these trusted relationships, all these agencies start springing up and just spouting all this stuff. And look, some of them might be great. They really might be. But we've just said, look, there's this deluge of stuff going on and we just don't really want to participate in that. And so we've decided to kind of step away from the word agency, but also be reflective on our business and how we're set up and what we're saying to clients and how we're building trust and how we're winning, business. And none of our businesses, all of our business is done on referral. We've never really run an ad in our lives, and we hopefully will never have to. And so hopefully that helps explain really like where we're positioning our business kind of going forward. You got anything to add to that?
No, I think it's just important that, as you said, like there's a partnership element there. With a traditional agency relationship is always a bit at arm's length and a bit removed from results, whereas we sort of find that we and all our team, they all care like personally about the results that generated each day for these clients. That's really important, and I don't think that the way we operate, having seen it from client side as well as agency side, we don't quite fit into that normal agency mold. Which is a good and a bad thing. It means we're quite high touch, and sometimes that's annoying for clients because we want to be really involved in their business. But at the same time, that's what keeps our good clients involved. Any person that thinks they just want a digital agency is probably not the right client for us. They want somebody who's more of a partner, who's wants to be more involved in the business, give their guidance and debate stuff. If you're just looking for a simple agency, we might not be the right person for you. So it doesn't make sense for us to use that word.
I think it's such a fascinating landscape because Sel and I didn't build this agency in a sort of typical way where we came from marketing school and went through agency land and did all that sort of stuff. We created it very organically and we actually didn't have any agency experience or anything like that. So I felt like we created something that was quite unique, and we were having staff come into our business from agency land that kind of couldn't quite work out how we sort of ran our business, and they gave us some really good advice, and then some things we kind of stuck with in our lane on. But I feel like from connecting with you guys seem to be the only similar service that we sort of felt was logical, and that's being fully integrated in a client's business and really understanding what their overall corporate goals are, and like where helping them structure their marketing and then helping them deliver on executing a lot of their marketing channels as well. And when I start looking outside and looking at what other agencies do, I really don't feel like they do partner, like you said, with the client as much, or really care as much about whether they are being effective in what they're doing, other than just looking at, I guess, vanity metrics and going, we're just increasing a whole bunch of traffic to your site and this and that, and we're doing our job and pay us the money. And I think that there are a lot of traps out there, unfortunately, for businesses like that are looking for support or a partner to help them with their marketing, because it seems to be one thing that businesses really do kind of struggle with.
By far the most frustrating aspects that I've had with staff that have come to us have been from that traditional agency where client comes in and says they have X amount of dollars and they just go, cool, do this, this and this. And we sit with the staff member and go, how will that make them more money? Like, they've come to us with a problem. Their business wants to make more money. And that's the only reason why someone's really coming to you. Can you help us market it? And you told them all these things that will look great and attractive on a computer and a piece of paper and really sexy lingo with all crazy abbreviations that none of them understood. All they want to know is, will this make me money? Yeah. And you can't answer that question. So why did you bother wasting their time? That is, above all else, the thing that kills me the most about where I see people unfortunately go to places, they get sold this great smoke and mirrors shiny dream, and at the end of it they sit there going, what did I get? Like, what was the actual outcome of the time, the money, the resources, which you guys own businesses outside of just the agency. You know how hard it is when you're spending money on a tangible product, and then you're putting money to get that product into people's hands or eyeballs, and then the flip happens and all that time is wasted. It's brutal. It's like a brutal thing. So I think obviously knowing the boys, how much they care, which is why they get integrated, but at the same time, it's not, as an agency point of view, not the best way to be profitable from an agency point of view, because as Nate said, it's high touch, which means a lot of your time and resources is going into guiding and coaching and working, which is what it should be. It's just that most people don't want that. They just want quick dollars, easy wins, move on to the next, churn and burn. I
think sometimes the answer to the question as well is what is agencies don't want to answer it, which is it's not time to do it yet. It's not time to embark on digital marketing yet. And that's why, we, like a lot of other agencies, we ask for access to data and blah, blah, blah. But on many occasions now, we've actually said, you know what? Don't do anything with anybody yet. Go and fix this, go and sort that out. You need more inventory there. Your conversion rate's too low, X, Y, and Z. And normally, and I think some of that conversation comes with experience too. Yeah. If you guys run multiple other businesses too, sometimes when the phone rings, I think agencies go, we got to answer it. Okay, here's a proposal. Yeah. It's actually, sometimes that's not the answer. The answer is fix a bunch of that other stuff, then come back and talk to us in 3 months.
For sure.
And that's, again, a trust thing, but it's also an experience thing.
And you said something, Miles, about staying in your lane and stuff like that. We tend not to. We tend to overreach a little bit and maybe put some noses out of joint, but we've got thick skin too. We don't have all the answers. We're not perfect. So certainly the client can talk to us and go, hey, I don't know that. That's cool. We can do that as well. So I think that sharing information and having ongoing debate about things, theories and hypotheses around what's going to work and what's not working, that's really important for us too. So sometimes, not everyone wants us to comment on things we're not involved in, but we think we've got a pretty valid point of view a lot of the time. Tell us
a bit more about the thick skin side of stuff, because I don't think anyone could have gone through the journey you boys have, and we're quite a few years short of you guys within the digital journey, where abuse is rife, staff sometimes absolutely copper hiding from clients. You do have to have thick skin in any business, but particularly in this business, I feel you have to understand things change and adapt so much, and people are expecting miracles.
They really don't understand.
They don't understand, but they expect a miracle. So they just are saying, you'll tell them exactly how this will go, and even though you've told it, said it, delivered it, proposal, everything, they can still come back and just go, you guys are fucked, like X, Y, Z, and you're just like, obviously you can't sit there just like punching on with people. You have to sit down, keep you calm, explain what the situation is. Sometimes they're not the right fit as a business. Sometimes they are the right fit, but you just have to go through that journey.
A lot of time as well, like a lot of clients think that it's kind of like if I buy the nutrition plan, I should have abs, right?
Yeah.
It's like, of course. It's like, if I get this agency on board and I pay them whatever money, I should just expect that money is just appearing in my bank account. And they actually don't do anything on their side. I read this quote the other day, and actually I won't go there. I'll try and find it on my phone while you guys are talking. But it was really good, and it was kind of like speaking about I'll do everything on my part to try and get you as good a results as possible. But I don't know what you're doing, so I can guarantee what I'm going to do, but I can't guarantee what you're going to do.
Again, I think for us, there's for any agency out there or consultant, it's incumbent on them to look at the bigger picture and not just go, okay, well, we're going to switch a bunch of stuff on, it's all going to work. Because there's a bunch of other stuff that you're referring to there, whether it's inventory, whether it's pricing, whether it's the digital experience, that all impacts anybody's ability to scale and to create change. But on your point on thick skin, Sal, it's a big thing. I mean, for us, it's not necessarily thick skin, but it's honesty. Again, like we're pretty blunt with each other, and we're pretty upfront and blunt with members of our team because, well, one, we're pretty busy, and that's the quickest and most effective way to communicate. And as long as that's done with respect, we think that's the best way to communicate with clients, with staff, I mean, Nathan and I can probably be a little bit more blunt with each other than everyone else, which again, I think is a sign of a good partnership, right? Through the fun stuff as well as the more difficult stuff.
I think that's so true. I was with my grandparents yesterday, and they're very European, Croatian, and they said to me, "Oh, how's Sel going?" Because they always ask every week. They're good. Yeah, he's good. He's good. Do you guys ever argue? And I said, never. And they're like, what? Like, what do you mean? Like, why don't you argue? Because they're super fired up. And I'm like, because we just talk. Like, we are super honest and open with each other. Like, he knows what I don't like when I don't like it. I know what he doesn't like when he doesn't like it. And we move on. And it's like, so I think that's sort of leads us to where Sel and I wanted to take this discussion, which is about partnerships and what makes a good partnership. Because a lot of the time people say, don't get into a partnership. It's terrible. It's bad. It's bad news. Like, but what is it for you guys that you think works? And then for those out there who are kind of doing it tough on their own and feel like they need a partner, who should they look for? And
we said it before. Before we got in this journey, is trust. Like, I don't think you could sit there in business for 6 years and not look at the person opposite you and know. We might not disagree on everything. We might have different ways of doing stuff, but I just trust that. I think the same. Just trust that everything is at least with good intentions and honest and fair and that sort of stuff. I think that's been the biggest thing. You're not going to bed at night going, I wonder what that person's doing behind my back and that sort of stuff. I've got none of that, and that's a big thing to worry about, and one thing we don't have to worry about. So I think just trusting the person is the most important thing. I think even if we didn't get along, I think we still trust each other. Do you know what I mean? You could still. It helps. It helps that we're really good mates. But I think even if we weren't, we know each other. Look square in the eye and say, I trust this person, and we don't have to agree on everything. But yeah,
was it time and understanding how each other worked that allowed you to build trust for each other? Was it hard times that you guys got through?
Yeah, fully.
It was actually. Yeah, I mean, it was exactly that because. You know, the history of Periscope's not always been an easy one. Like a lot of startups, we went through some early times where there was other people involved in the business. That was extremely stressful and frustrating. But we washed through all of that, and we were kind of side by side throughout that whole process. And I think that was one thing that helped forge that. And then, I think for us too, there was a mixture of that friendship component kind of blended in there. And then Nathan's style of comms and my style of comms, it's just very, very kind of open and frank. And I think that was a good match. I don't think, to answer your question, Miles, around if there's somebody out there solo who's looking for a partner, I don't necessarily think that's essential, but I think your ability to communicate really, really openly and clearly, just like what you guys can, I think that's one of the most important things in any partnership, even outside of, whether you have got somewhat complementary skills or, I think that the ability to communicate and be honest with each other, I think is one of those key things.
Do you guys have a good cop, bad cop?
We do, but do you know what? Over time that's changed, right? Because I was always bad cop because I was just like, I don't know, maybe it's the Scottish blood, and it's just like, okay, we're going to sort this thing out. You're going to go and do that. You're going to come out with blood on your hands here, Martin. But that's actually changed over time too. We've found our way through, different situations where Nate's gone, you know what? I think I'm going to go and do the difficult part of this, and so yeah, I mean that's been an interesting kind of journey for us too. Yeah.
If you guys are going to refer to yourself as a partnership, like a famous partnership, what would be like the personalities that would fit? Miles always says that me and him are like Jimmy and Dre.
Yeah,
I just think 100%. It's because they're black and white. So that's where he just
It's
jumped
not.
on that.
It's not.
No, I'm joking. He
Martin
does.
always refers to me as the Jay-Z and him as the Beyonce.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I
Never heard that before.
I was going to say the same thing. I just didn't want to. I didn't want to intercept what I was probably thinking anyway. But the Bonnie and Clyde 2.0.
Yeah, that's a good one. Nothing jumps to mind straight away. I'd definitely it'd be some kind of crime orientated kind of partnership though.
Yeah.
Something there. Yeah.
I think where people might go wrong, and we've experienced this ourselves as well, is maybe jumping into a partnership per se a bit too quickly before knowing who that other person really is, because you kind of don't know someone to that level unless you're in the trenches with them, right? And once you've sort of gone that far, it's a difficult situation when you one day wake up and realize, fuck, I don't want to be in the trenches with this person, or this person's not actually in the trenches with me, or they've got a little knife behind their back. You know, it's happened a lot too. It's like the difference for Sel and I, and this is kind of more as a reference for those listening who may be thinking of getting into a partnership, is just take our experience, not to rush it. And for Sel and I, we train jiu-jitsu. There's nothing more kind of honest than martial arts, right? And you guys are, you know, you're physically like fighting each other every day. And we did that for over a year. And at the time I had an information and experience advantage over Sel, right? So he didn't necessarily have a great morning every single morning. And sometimes I would see how far I could push it and to see what his response was. And every time he's like, fuck yeah, this is great. Let's go again. I want to learn again. Hey, are you going to be here tomorrow? Yep, I'll be here tomorrow. And you start to really understand what that person is like. And so that, for us, that was our little sort of like test, I guess. And then also he became a client of the original agencies, and I saw him going through his own partnership issues and business issues. And I was like, man, this guy's getting through. I can see what he's like going through fires. And, you know, he understood what I was like as well. So I think that we were able to identify each other's values and what values connected.
Yep.
And that allowed us to understand, oh, yeah, cool, we're going to be in a good partnership together and very honest.
If you can see adversity early, that if you can find you boys had it through the surf stitch, probably transition. So you probably knew what each other were like under the blowtorch a lot quicker than what other people would be. And I've had a small experience of looking at like what IPO life would be like a transition to it. It looks fucked in multiple ways. So you boys going through that ringer, working side by side, probably showed very quickly how you would deal with pressure. You find out a lot about people when things are bad. When things are good, everyone's good. Like it's just like, oh, it's rosy, it's fun, and that's, you never actually find out truly what someone's like until shit properly hits the fan. And unfortunately, most people don't get to see what that's like until they're already in the business with the person. Then shit hits the fan, and then they're looking at like, I didn't know you were like this. Like, and then unfortunately, through sometimes my own experience, and I've seen other people go through it, that's when you're like, oh fuck. Like I really now am in this. No different to a marriage. I would actually argue that it's harder unwinding business partnerships than it is unwinding if you were going through a divorce, unless you have kids. That could be another situation, but it's tough. It's a really tough situation if you get it wrong. So
kind of feels like that though, right? The business is like the kid in a sense.
Exactly.
You know?
Like in a sense, man. It's a tough one. And the thing that I think that I've noticed the most, that I appreciate the most about within a partnership, is if you have trust and you know that everyone is working as hard as they possibly can for the same end outcome, everything kind of works itself out. The times where it feels like at some stage, oh, you're doing more than the other person, and that other person is like narky or nipping, and you're just like, we all want the same outcome at the end of the day. We all want prosperity, success, wealth, to pass down legacy. But when you feel like someone goes off track, and it may be more about themselves, be it I want fame or limelight or whatever it may be, or like I'm doing more than you so I want more money, and it becomes about money. As soon as those other shiny things come into the picture, that's when I've noticed things have gone fairly pear-shaped.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, just picking up what you said, Miles, this idea around values, a big thing for me, because you beat me to it there as well. So, prosperity, freedom to be able to do stuff, they're all things that we're looking for. But big thing I ask myself, from a partnership point of view, is how bad does the other person want it?
Exactly.
Do they want it as badly as me too? And I know Nathan and I, we're privileged enough to be able to hang out and just have beers together, and we got a friendship too. And as a result of all of that, I understand. I know his family. I know what he wants to achieve, but a big thing for me is how bad do you want it?
I agree.
If that other person wants it as bad as you, then that's another good indicator that you know.
And then flip to that also with how bad they want it. You boys also know each other's families, and it doesn't seem like it, but the family also plays probably just an equal part of it. Like, I know Miles' partner Holly. I know Miles wants kids in the future. I want his kids to have the same level of dreams and admiration as my own kids. Like, you want it just for as much for the personal part of the other side of the family, because that's their partner as well in life. So you want to see the family do just as well. And I always refer to things as a family. So I know within this journey, I'll get to know Nate's family, I'll get to know Martin's family, and then you want to see them do well. Like, it's just natural because the extension is soon enough. I'm hoping we're all going to be old, grey and retired, and then kicking back, doing fun stuff, plan some trips. But then you want the kids to be able to get the runoff of what you had worked hard for. So that's just an equal important part to me.
Yeah, I think it's sort of about inspiring the kids too.
Yeah.
I don't want to hand them a golden whatever when they get to 16 or something like that. But you want them to be able to look at their parents and stuff and the people that the parents associate with and say, those guys all work hard. I get it. I'm gonna do it too. Do you know what I mean? That's really important as well, that our families look at what we're doing and are sort of proud of it, and we'll reap the benefits of it too.
100%. Sel brought up something before, and when he was talking about the partnership, and used the word fair, and it's a discussion that I've had a lot, and even with my partner Holly, and Holly always talks about, like, it's not fair, and uses the term fair, and I don't believe that anything is really fair in this life. What do you guys think about fairness, and, like, when we're talking about a partnership and things like that? Do things need to be fair, or?
I typically agree with my wife when things come to fairness, so I disagree with you.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Yeah, I think they do. We've been on a journey, and we've recognised where things have been maybe out of kilter or out of whack, and we've addressed them, because, you know, we're a true kind of partnership. We want it to be truly balanced. And so I think it's important, because you can just look at your partner and say, you know what, we're doing exactly this thing together. And I think that's important, to get that energy and that enthusiasm and that fairness from the other individual involved. So I personally believe that fairness and that transparency and that balance is key. Yeah.
My view is, like, it's similar to, like, the illusion of work-life balance. There's not one or the other. It's kind of like one is up sometimes and the other is down, and then you can switch them over depending on what you sort of need at that particular time. And similar to what Sel was talking about, sometimes I'm just down. Sel has an incredible immune system, never gets sick. I get fucked all the time. And if I go down, he steps up. You know what I mean? And if he ever says, hey, I need this done, I can step up. And I think, like, if you're out there and you're kind of, you know, worried about what your partner's doing because you're doing a lot, similar to what Sel was talking about, because you think things need to be fair and stuff, maybe just sort of, like, remove the idea of fairness and just sort of think about where that balance is at, and just openly communicate with your partner and make sure things are...
I mean, I think on that, you know, whilst we believe in fairness, there's this, I mean, I think we move in rhythm with each other. Like, every year I go to the UK for 5 weeks. So Nath's just got to run the place. I work remotely. You know, Nath travels to Brazil with his family. I got to pick up the slack on that. There's times where my energy's a bit lower. So Nath's got to just kind of naturally run, you know. I had to go to the dentist this morning. But, you know, so we believe in fairness, but we also believe, like, I got you covered. You know,
100%.
That's what it's all about.
There's also the aspect of understanding whoever you're getting into partnership with. You also have to understand where they're at in life. For example, when me and Miles first got into a partnership, I was having my first kid at the time. So he was 9 months and psychotic. So I wasn't sleeping for, like, endless stretches of periods, and that was just where I was at life. And so the weekends, I used to be that person that there were no weekends, and I'd just work and just output. Then I had a kid, and I was like, oh, like, I don't get that anymore. Like, that's no longer a thing. Like, Saturday and Sundays are for the kids, to look after them, to give Jenna rest and so forth. And having someone that understands wherever you are in your personal life as well is super important, because if you're single per se and you don't have family, of course you're going to be able to work till late at night, but you can't sit there holding it against your business partner like, hey, like I did 20 hours today and you did 12 or 10 or whatever it is, and you have to go watch your kid play soccer or something like that. So as long as you've got a fair understanding of what the other person's doing on the other side of life, it tends to make an understanding very easy, because at some stage you'll probably swap, where soon that person may be going through family life or vice versa, and you have to be willing and able to pick each other up when they're going through their other side of things.
Exactly what we found. And that's one of the joys that I think of our partnership is it's exactly that. You know, it's like I said, you know, I feel I'm covered, and you know, and Nathan's energy's low, as it has been over the last couple of weeks.
It didn't look low on Friday. He was cheering.
That time of year, mate.
So let's talk about that. So we've just come out of, or we're going through still, all this whole Black Friday period, and I know that you guys have had a lot of success with your clients over this time period, and I know you guys work with a lot of established businesses. Give us some advice, or tell us sort of what you're seeing out there at the moment in terms of business, and the businesses that are doing well. What is the difference, or what is it about those businesses in particular and what they're focusing on or what they're doing right that makes them more successful?
I'd say one of the biggest things, like overall, put Black Friday and stuff aside, one of the biggest things that we find is often it's founder-led businesses or people with a shit ton of energy and passion for what they do. It's not always that they know everything about what we do or about how the business works, stuff like that, but people with the right energy are the ones that we sort of connect with, and we find that they're the most exciting clients to have and to work on, and their businesses do better. I think we support and plug in that way, but I think that's probably the key thing we see amongst businesses that we work with that do really well is energy and their passion for what they do, and that's something that goes back to that thing of we've got to connect with the people that we work with, and I think that those are the people we connect with and we can be inspired by. It doesn't matter if they're a really small business, we can see their work and their effort and their ideas and stuff, and we're like, that's inspiring. Like, some of those businesses are much smaller than Periscope, but that is something we sort of strive to connect with, and it works. And then those are the businesses that we see do well in our experience of all agencies and even client side stuff. It's a passionate, energetic like leader in the business is the key thing, which seems to spit out dollars and profits for them at the end. Yeah,
we got some great examples of clients that have exactly that. Inspirational, energetic founder. I think in addition to that, like I guess the types of businesses they're running and what we're seeing from them right now, you know, many of those are direct consumer brands. They're brands that have decided not to distribute their product to any wholesale partners, rightly or wrongly. And they've created their own communities, you know, within those businesses. And they're just doing, like, this year, I think last year it was weird, right? Because coming off Black Friday, Cyber Monday, just post-COVID, you know, it was a funny time of year. This year, we've just seen this incredible kind of trading patterns throughout November, particularly from some of those direct-to-consumer businesses that you can only buy the product directly from them. You know, there's been examples of them closing down their websites and creating hype. It feels like whilst those businesses are really young and passionate and enthusiastic, they're super dialed in on their data. They know exactly about their customer acquisition cost. They know exactly about their customer lifetime value. And they're really clear on all of that stuff. They're also really, really socially enabled. You know, talking to the guys that, you know, produce a lot of kind of content. But, you know, they have brilliant social narrative, really agile. They're turning stuff around really quickly. And on top of that, as Nath mentioned, they've just got this kind of enthusiasm and this energy running down from the top. Like, we were privileged enough to be up at LSKD.
Yep.
And I won't talk to you about any of the numbers, but, like, they had shut their site down for a couple of days. They opened it up at 6 p.m. But, like, the enthusiasm and the energy, there was all their staff were there, their crew were there, everyone was on the tools that needed to be on the tools. And it was just one of the most impressive things I've seen in the last 2 or 3 years. It really was. And I think for me, that's a perfect example of a business where Jace, who runs it, is this incredible, energetic, like get shit done leader. And that energy and enthusiasm is cascaded into all of his people. And they've built this brilliant community. The product's great, the brand, they're and it was quite incredible to watch how that all unfolded. So that for me was one of the biggest take homes of 2022 in terms of an impressive client doing great shit.
Yeah, far out. It's so fascinating. Like, for those of you who are just listening to that, it's like people are just searching for like this blueprint or like this particular ad strategy or, this particular, business foundation strategy. But what you guys are really saying is the key is that enthusiasm that's led from the top, which oozes down into creating this amazing culture that then people end up resonating with your brand and wanting to buy from you.
Well, essentially, it's probably a great example, right? Because Jason, he's been at that business for like 15 years or something. Mm-hmm. So I think, the energy and enthusiasm piece is a component of it.
Surprised it hasn't worn off after all that time.
And I don't think it was always easy for him either. It's really over the last kind of 4 years or so that brand's blown up globally. So maybe let's have a word with him, see if we can get him on your next podcast.
Yeah, that would be cool. That would be really good.
On top of that stuff, there's a lot of unsexy stuff we did, like planning.
Yeah.
We so much data to plan, especially with all the weird years on years and those sorts of things we've just been through. That planning piece was super important for us, and we had clients of ours generally had a pretty good Black Friday. It didn't always go to plan, but the plan was there to work off, which was really, really important and way less sexy than jumping around and watching dollars tick over. But
tell people about that plan, because anytime maybe they get confused by the word, but when we say to a client or whoever it may be, we even had a podcast about it just called Strategy, which was just about like creating a map, pathway, whatever you want to call it, to deliver an end outcome. And anytime we've said it, a lot of times people are just like, not paying for that. And I'm just like, if someone said to you today, hey, drive to Darwin, what would be the first thing you would do? You would type it into Google Maps or Apple Maps or whatever, Darwin, and it would tell you where to go. And you'd go, well, cool, it's going to take me 4 days. I'm going to stop here. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Then I'm eventually going to get there. That's a strategy. Whereas people are willing to just go, no strategy, hopping into a business. I don't know how I'm going to get whatever my goal is. And then just say, oh, it didn't work. And then just go, well, that was fucked. Like, and not even reflect or work out how to plan or put things together. Do you guys, what's the journey that you guys take people through to create their strategy to deliver, obviously, these great outcomes?
I think the biggest piece is no cookie cutter approach to it. Every single client has different challenges and different strengths and weaknesses where we've got to try and navigate that. We look at a lot of data and see what the actual goals are. Some clients don't care about new customer, they just want revenue in. Some only care about new customer. So it's looking at how they've done before. It's good. Black Friday and stuff usually gives us a bit of a decent chunk of history to look at over the last 4 or 5 years, whatever. So I think just taking that into account of what their goals need to be, putting forward like, this is what we think we're going to get there with, and here's the different metrics we're going to use. For an event like that, it might be different to the usual metrics. It could be completely different. And everything's got. We typically plan like by day, and we're talking to clients twice daily during that period because that's exciting for us. I mean, things move quickly. Like, not all year you can spend some money in Google, for example, and data comes through, and we're changing things, and an hour later it's making an impact. I mean, you were there on Friday afternoon, right? Like, that's the vibe. Like, it's everyone's up and into it, and that's the kind of thing we like in the office. But the planning that gets us before that is way less sexy. And it's often heads in spreadsheets and stuff like that, and presenting plans and debating outcomes and that sort of stuff. I just wouldn't say it's got to be like custom built.
But a big thing again for us is like, normally when we get a new client inquiry, we'll ask a bunch of questions, and quite often the client doesn't have the answers to the questions, and that's quite revealing. We don't do it to feel good about ourselves, but we do it just because we got to learn about the business, we understand what's going on. And then quite often that leads itself into, what is the plan in March? Because inventory, the plan on inventory looks low, there's nothing in the marketing calendar, so there's a joined up partnership there where we get into that work, and quite often that leads on to us actually working closely with the client on what the plan is, for example, in March. and then underpinned by all that data and all that modeling that we do as well.
Yeah. Well, speaking to Friday, I will say that I have been to a lot of businesses over this period, on our side owning, other side doing marketing. Was a really cool vibe, really cool vibe. And for that matter, it was you guys and staff, all staff were there cheering for the clients, which I know may not seem like much to the person that's not within a marketing agency or anything, but generally speaking, like, although you're marketing for clients, a lot of people are doing it for self-gratification and lots of that. Your guys' team was genuinely really buzzing for the results of the clients, which was really cool to see, because it's nice. Like, to be honest, even being on the marketing side, you can become jaded by hearing the shit stories and thinking that there's all these like smoke and mirror places that aren't actually delivering end outcomes and all these different types of things, which I can definitely say wasn't the case. Apart from Nathan's racket, that he was taking money from the staff, but I was also quite impressed by that too. So the whole thing was, it was a great
appreciate
vibe.
you saying that, Sal.
What do you guys think about sort of the narrative that might be out there a little bit as well about not taking on board an agency, and if you're scaling to insource a lot of these types of activities? What would you guys say about that?
I think it's an option. I think it depends on the size and shape of your business and the type of activity that they're going to participate in from a digital advertising perspective. In some cases, it makes sense. In some cases, it doesn't. I think we hear it a bit when we hear, like a client, they're going to get somebody in, they're going to get a digital marketing practitioner in. And when we hear that, we're like, okay, that's difficult, because we know that the depth some of our specialist practitioners go into within paid search, the depth that and the experience some of them have got within paid social, email, conversion rate optimization, affiliate marketing. No one can cover all of those kind of competently. It'd be very difficult to even cover two of them really well. And so, I think that there's pros and cons. There's getting a human being in your office or working on your brand 100%. That's the in-source kind of component. I guess for business owners, I'd be asking yourself the question, what's the complexity of the business? What type of growth outcomes do you think you're looking for? Because, there may well be a case to engage in an agency to say, well, I'm going to do 2 of those channels and I want it done really well. Does that agency have evidence that they're doing it at that scale for, exciting clients? Who are those people? Meet them, find out, how much experience have they had? What makes them tick? Are they good human beings? I think all of those things are really important to us, and we try and expose those to clients along the way. We don't have account managers in our business because we don't want a needless kind of layer of an account manager who doesn't really know a lot. We plug the practitioners right into clients sometimes, all the time. Sometimes that bamboozles the clients a bit. We're like, okay, dial it back a bit. But so look, there's pros and cons. But we think that that approach of getting the specialist individuals plugged into clients is important.
Tell us about the culture of Periscope and what things you guys do within your business to, make sure that, the staff are happy, the business is continuing to progress. You guys mentioned that you aren't super visible online, maybe like you don't have Instagram and stuff like that, and don't post as much, it's more of a referral thing.
We just don't have time.
Yeah. We don't have the resource to plug into our stuff when everyone's looking after client stuff, which is
that's something that we used to pride ourselves on a lot. We didn't have a website for 6 years.
Yeah, I think we've still got very basic.
That was pretty crap.
I don't realize someone looked at it, but in terms of the staff, I mean, the first thing is trying to recruit good people. We talked about some of the negative times, the down times in Periscope. Through that, I wouldn't hand on heart say we're a great place to work. But in the last sort of 3-4 years, even more recently, I think we're developing a great culture, and that's not just led by us. We've got a lot of people in there now been with us for some time, and the way they work and the way they play sort of agrees with our fundamental beliefs and what we like. We had an idea when we started an agency that, not using that word, but we started Periscope, that the stuff we like beers in the fridge and music playing and, you know, take your birthday off and simple things like that. We don't need to overcomplicate it.
Yep.
I think everyone who comes to us likes our approach and sort of they've got a bit of us in them as well. Yep. We screen each other pretty well through any interviewing process and stuff like that. So the ones that land with us are generally now the right ones. And that culture, I don't think we can force it. I don't think we can make everyone hold hands and sing. I think it's a bit like almost like being they're all partners in there, right? Whether they're not in business or not, they're in the trenches together. So those guys have got to connect and click and be able to work together and enjoy each other's company. And I think it's an evolution rather than making it happen. It happens over time, but it's a simple things. We think we're a fun place to work, not too fun, but yeah. I mean, we've taken simple things like beers in the fridge and finish early on Fridays and stuff like that. And I think they get to that. We get pulled. We're in the trenches too. Yeah, you know what I mean, we're not sitting there on some tower saying everyone get stuff done. Yeah, everyone, no matter what level they are, will muck in and get stuff done. I think that's really important.
I think that's a really important point, particularly when there's a problem, because stuff doesn't always go right for us, right? You know, and I think one of the reasons I think we've built a great business is we can respond to problems quickly, and we can also be honest with the client and go, that was our fault. We didn't do that right, or whatever it might be. But I think one of the biggest things is when there is a problem and the shit's hit the fan, you'll find Nathan and I on the call with the client, alongside the team to get it done, flush out the problem until it's done, fix it, and then move on with our lives. So I think if the crew feel supported like that, I think that's an important thing.
We were having a chat with Toby Pierce on the last podcast, and he was talking about team members needing to both fit into a culture and also produce good results. You can't have a person at either extreme. So you can't have someone that is really good in the culture but doesn't produce any results, or someone that produces a lot of results but doesn't fit in the culture. Yep. They just don't fit. Do you guys sort of feel that way as well? Have you had to make any decisions where someone might be a gun at a particular channel but they just have not fit in with the culture and you've had to sort of let them go? Have you had any experiences like that?
Yeah, look, I mean, we've had people who've been great at what they do, but they've either just been different. I don't think everyone needs to race to the fridge and open a beer at 4 o'clock on a Friday. Not that we finish it. We actually finish at 3 on a Friday, but so yeah, but what we've found, frankly, is we've had great people in, but they've just turned out to be dickheads. Yep. Yeah. It's not, and they like I say, it's not just necessarily a culture thing. It's just they've either been arrogant or they haven't been a team player, and so we're pretty good at trying to filter those people. But I mean, an interview process is you only find out very little about somebody. It's kind of crazy, isn't it? But we try and pinpoint those people, and we weed them out pretty quickly now.
Sel and I once had someone that we interviewed, and I've been trying to reflect, and I can't remember the time. It was a while ago now, where we interviewed them for a paid ad role or a performance manager role, and we flew them up from Melbourne and housed them up here. And I realised in week one they didn't know how to set up a Facebook ad. Yeah. I don't know how they got through the interviewing process.
We've had a few of them.
But
some people are just master bullshitters, aren't they?
Absolutely master bullshitters. So I've even felt like it kind of comes also back down to that partnership chat. You don't even know what they're like until they're in there with you.
Another important part for us is, our crew and our team are really important, but clients are important too. Mm-hmm. And, we're kind of proud to say that we fired the odd client for being a dickhead, because if our people have to deal with a company who's toxic or is a toxic individual, then we're not really that interested. It's such an important part of coming to work, working with your colleagues, but also servicing businesses too. So we try and weed those ones out too.
Have you felt that way, have you been in a situation maybe earlier on in the Periscope days where, every client was imperative to your,
of course,
Yeah, but at the same time, like when you see no one wants to work on that client, and that client is, whether it's rude or just ill-informed, whatever it's going to be, it's not worth us losing 4 people over one client. Do you know what I mean? Regardless of how profitable they are, because that infects the whole office. So no, we've had to make some tough decisions like that, and it's not because it's literally not because we're arrogant. They'd find probably another agency or service provider that will fit them better.
Yep.
Which is cool. Like,
and then just having the confidence that you will replace them, someone else will come and they'll be a better fit.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Which is up to them.
We've found that a lot, and even back in the day where every client mattered, meaning that if we didn't have, the every single client on at that particular time, we'd be in real financial strife. But it's funny how the world works that way, or how your energy changes and you sort of find yourself in a position where you just you get what you need at that particular time, and you make the decision to fire a client, even though it's going to really put you in a bad space for a while, and then all of a sudden that energy sort of brings you more clients,
100%.
all that sort of stuff. It's funny how the world works like that.
Boys, we got another meeting together. But with that said, there's actually, I've been wanting to ask you guys this a question. We always finish the podcast with like question from a client side or friend, customer, whoever it may be. And I actually reached out to a few people. And because you work on so many cool brands, one of the questions, and I'll ask it to both of you guys, and you may get in trouble for picking, but what is your favorite brand, either that you've worked on, that you just personally like, that you vibe with, or you've actually even put together yourself and maybe one of your own brands? Do you have a favorite brand, and what is, and the reason why it's your favorite brand?
It's like picking a favorite kid, mate.
Exactly. It's a hard one, isn't it?
It's easy for me. I can go first. Look, I mean, I just feel really privileged to have worked with Culture Kings for so long. Homegrown story, great bunch of dudes, an incredible business. The pace the guys move out there, the decisions they've taken, the agility they've still got being a massive company. And of course, they're a publicly listed company now after the broader acquisition. Just getting a front row seat to that has been incredible, but also the role that PeriscoPe's played in that. When we showed up 4 years ago, when we first, their business looked differently in terms of the makeup of traffic. And I'm really proud of the work our crew have done on that. And so that's been a pretty incredible experience.
Nice.
Working on that brand.
I refuse to pick one.
You refuse?
No.
That's fair enough.
Very political.
I love them all equally.
How about a personal brand? As in not like one you work for, but like just a personal, like Patagonia
or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I think Patagonia's been a very inspirational brand over the years, and all hype around it recently for the right reasons. Yeah. That's exciting. I think there's a lot more.
Camper, Nath.
Camper I've been a big fan of Camper over the years as well. But I think there's a lot of brands which, I think what annoys me more is the brands that become big for no apparent reason. Rather than look at the positives, I've got a list of brands which I won't name. I just cannot understand why anyone is buying their gear or interested in their products, or that baffles me, and that's something I'd love to unlock, because I think if you turn some of these businesses into multi-billion-dollar things, there's some magic wand thing there, because there's nothing unique or special about them. I think that's what annoys me, and I don't know how to crack that code of essentially a very unspecial brand that does extraordinary things, which is great for them. Yeah. It just frustrates me. I don't have the knowledge of how it works and what makes that the one versus another one where they seem identical. But yeah,
I do find myself asking that question on a few brands.
Yeah. Me too sometimes. Yeah. Well, lads, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
We got a decent Christmas party coming up in a week and a bit. Martin behind the decks. I reckon
we'll get an invite.
Mate, you missed out. You're missing out on the best deal of the year. DJ Millie on the decks.
DJ Joey.
Maybe
Pepperoni.
Maybe you and I will sing. Me and Nath will sing.
I just wanted to take the opportunity to say as well how excited we are about the go forward, the kind of hype and Periscope partnership. You guys have been a pleasure to deal with, and I think the attributes we've spoken about in terms of we've seen in this short period of time we've been engaging with you guys. We've seen those attributes that we know and love in our partnership, in you guys too, and I think that's what's made it such a fun and enjoyable thing. So thank you for that as well.
No, I appreciate you boys, and really appreciate the trust, as you said, because look, let's face it, there's no way to explicitly know how everything will work in the future. So there is a massive level of trust. I think what me and Miles talked about when we very first started chatting with you guys was I knew I had belief or trust that you guys would work as hard as you could to make it work, and we would do exactly the same. And I said, if that remains in place, then somehow, some way, it will always work out. So
100%.
yeah, stoked.
And also thanks to everyone who's listening to this that supported Sel and I along our journey,
Yep.
and will continue to support us through this Periscope journey as well, and all our brands and stuff. So onwards and upwards. Let's
Yep.
go.
Thanks, lads.
Thanks, boys.
Thank you. Thanks
for
for having us.